The letter arrived on thin yellow paper. No warning. No delay. No mercy in its design. Only the gold seal of the coalition burned into the top corner like a final judgment. Ambassador Lin held it in his hands, but he already knew what it meant. 60 years. 60 years of human effort, diplomacy, research, peaceful requests, endless waiting, all reduced to 2 cold lines. Earth's application, denied. Status, permanent protected primitive world. Lin didn't speak. He just placed the paper on his desk in Geneva. Outside the window, the world was normal. People sat at cafes drinking coffee. Children walked to school with backpacks bouncing. Cars moved slowly through morning traffic. No one looked at the sky. No one knew the sky had already decided their fate. And then, 3 hours later, the sky broke. A tear opened above the Pacific Ocean like reality itself had been cut open. One ship came through. Then another. Then 40 more. Massive warships, silent, black, and endless, hung in low orbit like teeth around the Earth. Warlord Kelvar stood on the bridge of the lead vessel. He didn't look impressed. He looked bored. Below him was a blue planet full of ants pretending to be important. A message echoed through the coalition fleet. Make an example of Earth. Kelvar tapped the command panel. Begin the lesson. A pause. Then the order followed. Select 12 cities. The brightest ones. No emotion. No debate. Just execution. The orbital weapons fired. Not for war. For punishment. Geneva was first. Ambassador Lin never even heard the explosion. He was still staring at the letter when white light erased everything above him. Then Tokyo. Then Lagos. Then Mumbai. Then Sao Paulo. City after city vanished from the map. Not randomly. Deliberately. The coalition wanted humans to watch. To understand. To break. From orbit, billions saw it live on their screens. Bright cities turned into burning ghosts. Skies turned into firestorms. And then, the broadcast stopped. Not slowly. All at once. Every screen on Earth flickered. And then every device turned black. For a moment, the world had no voice. And then the coalition spoke. Every screen on Earth lit up again. Phones, billboards, emergency systems, military channels. All of them showed the same face. Warlord Kelvar. Calm, cold, almost tired. As if this was just another classroom lesson. His voice spread across the planet. You asked for what you had not earned. This is the price of pride. You have 7 days. Surrender all weapons, all fleets, all space assets. Do this, and some of your cities may survive. Refuse, and we return to finish what we started. The coalition has spoken. The signal cut. Silence returned to Earth. But it was not peace. It was shock. Across the world, people screamed. Some prayed. Some ran. Some just stood still, unable to understand what they had seen. Coalition observer ships entered stable orbit. They expected collapse. They expected surrender. They expected begging. That is what every young species did. Always. But Earth did something else. It went silent. No messages. No broadcasts. No leaders speaking. No governments responding. Just silence. Within 12 hours, every monitored human communication channel stopped. Completely. Even coalition analysts couldn't explain it. One observer said, maybe they destroyed themselves. Another replied, or maybe they stopped talking, on purpose. No one believed the second option. Not yet. On the far side of the moon, inside a hidden crater never fully mapped by coalition sensors, Captain Daniel Ray stood alone. He pressed his forehead against cold steel. His hands were shaking. Below him, Earth burned in silence. But he wasn't watching Earth. He was remembering Tokyo. His wife had been there. His daughter too. They were supposed to be visiting family. He had spoken to them 6 hours before the strike. His daughter had asked him for a stuffed bear from the lunar base shop. He had promised. Now there was no Tokyo. No shop. No bear. No daughter. Ray did not cry. He had stopped crying a long time ago. A door behind him opened. Heavy boots echoed across metal flooring. Admiral Hannah Pierce entered. 62 years old. Cold eyes. Controlled voice. A woman who looked like she had been waiting for war her entire life. She stood beside him. Reports? Ray asked. His voice was empty. 12 cities gone, she said. 400 million dead. And 200 million wounded. Silence. Then. They think we will break in 7 days. Ray finally looked at her. What do we do? Pierce didn't answer immediately. She turned toward the Earth hanging in space. Blue. Beautiful. Bleeding. Then she said, Project Final Word is active. Ray's eyes narrowed. That was real. Pierce nodded. We were not waiting for them. We were waiting for this moment. Ray swallowed. Orders. Pierce turned slightly. Her voice dropped. No emotion. No hesitation. Wake them up. Ray froze. All of them. Pierce's eyes stayed on Earth. Every sleeper cell. Every hidden fleet. Every weapon we built in the dark. A pause. Then the final line. The galaxy thinks we are children. We are going to correct that mistake. The Earth turns slowly below them. Burning. Quiet. Waiting. And somewhere deep inside the silence, humanity had already started answering. The galaxy thought Earth had gone silent. But silence was not empty. It was controlled. It was organized. And it was waiting. 3 days after the strikes, Coalition observer ships recorded something strange. No broadcasts. No distress signals. No government channels. Nothing. But Earth was not behaving like a dead world. It was behaving like a locked one. Every military radar still functioned, but only internally. Every satellite still moved, but never spoke outside orbit. Every network on the planet was alive, but disconnected from everything else. One coalition analyst said, "This is not collapse. This is isolation." No one listened to him, because that idea was too dangerous. On the far side of the moon, deep inside the hidden command crater, Admiral Hannah Pierce stood in front of a holographic map. Red markers floated across the galaxy. Coalition fleets. Shipyards. Supply lines. 2,000 warships gathering at the Corlan Nebula. She didn't blink. Status? She asked. Captain Daniel Ray stepped forward. Sleeper cells are responding, he said. First wave has already activated. Pierce turned slightly. How many? Ray hesitated. Then answered. Thousands confirmed across coalition space. A pause. Then. And we are still finding more. Far away, on a quiet farming colony in coalition space, a teacher in Argentina wiped chalk from his hands. He looked at his classroom. Children were gone. The bell rang. But instead of going home, he walked into the basement. He opened a steel locker that had been there for 30 years. Inside, a uniform, a weapon, a single encrypted data chip. He placed it into an old device. And the device spoke. Identity confirmed. The man closed his eyes. Then he whispered. Finally. Across the galaxy, a fisherman in Vietnam left his boat in the middle of the ocean. A truck driver in Texas abandoned his vehicle on a highway. An office worker in Cairo locked her building and never returned. None of them were what they seemed. They were never ordinary. They were waiting. For 40 years, humanity had built something the coalition never noticed. Not an army. Not a fleet. A network. In the coalition capital of Tessera, Speaker Allen stood before the council again. His voice was different now. Tired, but sharper. 6 days have passed, he said. Earth remains silent. The Drallan ambassador laughed. Because they are dead or hiding in caves. Allen didn't respond immediately. He placed a data slate on the table. This is what I want you to look at. A pause. Then he activated it. Names appeared. Hundreds at first. then thousands, then more. All coalition civilian sectors, Alan said quietly. Agents embedded for decades. Merchants, workers, engineers, teachers. The room slowly stopped laughing. Alan continued. Every one of them is gone. Not dead. Erased. A trailing delegate leaned forward. Explain. Alan looked at them and said the sentence that changed everything. They didn't disappear from Earth. They returned to it. 200 million kilometers from Earth, inside a hollowed asteroid no coalition scan had ever detected. Something woke up. Metal lights flickered across a massive shipyard. Not one ship. Not 10. 47 capital warships. And hundreds of smaller strike vessels. All human-built. All hidden. All waiting. Dr. Owen Hartley stood in the center of it all. 68 years old. Tired eyes. Hands that never stopped shaking, but never stopped building either. Admiral Pierce's voice came through the comm. Status. Hartley exhaled. They are ready. A pause. Then. All of them. Behind him, the fleet lit up one by one. Silent engines waking after decades. Pierce looked at Ray. Do you understand now? She asked. Ray nodded slowly. We never lost Earth. Pierce corrected him. We never revealed Earth. She turned toward the map again. The coalition fleet at Corland Nebula glowed bright. 2,000 ships. Waiting. Confident. Unaware. They think silence means weakness, she said. Ray finished the thought. It means preparation. On the far edge of coalition space, a sensor officer blinked at his screen. Something was wrong. A faint reading. Then another. Then thousands. He leaned closer. His voice cracked. Sir, I am detecting multiple fleet signatures. The commander turned. How many? The officer swallowed. Then whispered. Human. A long silence. Then alarms began to scream. Humanity was no longer silent. It was awake. And it was moving. The galaxy had spent months believing one simple lie. That Earth was finished. That Earth was broken. That Earth was waiting to die. They were wrong. The first warning came from a mining outpost on the edge of coalition space. A supply station simply stopped responding. No distress signal. No explosion. No warning. Just silence. Then another station went dark. Then another. Within 6 hours, 17 outposts had vanished from communication grids. The coalition tried to trace the source. There was nothing to trace. Only absence. A trailing officer finally said what no one wanted to say. This is not an invasion. This is removal. Across coalition-controlled space, people who had lived normal lives for decades began to move. A warehouse manager finished his shift like any other day. He smiled at his co-workers. He clocked out. Then he walked into a sealed maintenance room that did not exist on any map. Inside was a black terminal. He placed his hand on it. A scan ran. Identity confirmed. A hidden door opened behind him. And for the first time in 30 years, he was no longer a worker. He was something else. Coalition Command expected Earth to attack ships. Instead, it attacked systems. Navigation grids collapsed across multiple sectors. Communication relays began feeding false coordinates. Entire fleets received wrong jump calculations. Ships that were supposed to be far apart suddenly found themselves on collision paths. Chaos was not created with weapons. It was created with information. A Drallan admiral shouted, "They are hacking us." A British-English analyst answered quietly, "No, this is not hacking. This is architecture." On the far side of the moon, Admiral Hannah Pierce watched everything without emotion. Red markers spread across the galaxy map. Coalition systems breaking. Fleet coordination failing. Confusion rising. Captain Ray stood beside her. They're reacting faster than expected. Pierce did not look at him. They were always going to react. A pause. The question was never if they panic, she said. It was when they realize what is causing the panic. In the Coalition Council chamber, Speaker Allen stood again. But this time, no one laughed. No one interrupted. No one moved casually. Because now ships were disappearing. Not destroyed. Just gone. Alan activated the display. Red zones filled the map. All civilian embedded humans have stopped reporting in. A Trelling delegate whispered, so they were spies. Alan shook his head. No. They were never spies. A pause. Then he said the truth. They were placeholders. The room went cold. Inside a hidden asteroid shipyard, Dr. Owen Hartley stood as final systems came online. 47 capital warships. Hundreds of strike vessels. Tens of thousands of autonomous drones. Admiral Pierce's voice came through the link. Are they ready? Hartley answered, yes. A long silence followed. Then Pierce said, then the galaxy stops pretending today. Far away at the Corland Nebula, 2,000 coalition warships continued assembling. They were confident. They were superior. They were waiting. A Trelling commander laughed. Still no response. Humans are hiding in caves. An officer hesitated. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting anomalies. Debris. No, sir. Fleet signatures. Coalition reinforcements. The officer swallowed. No, sir. A pause. Then the words that froze the bridge. They are human. On the edge of coalition space, a sensor station detected something impossible. A formation. Too large. Too organized. Too quiet. The officer whispered, how long have they been there? No one answered. Because the truth made no sense. They had not arrived. They had always been there. The coalition fleet at the Corland Nebula hung in space like a final promise of victory. 2,000 warships. 12 species. One belief. That Earth was already dead. They were wrong. The first sign was not an explosion. It was silence. Every coalition ship received a system warning at the exact same moment. No jump capability. No external transmission. No escape vectors. A Trelling admiral stood up from his command chair. What is this? He demanded. An officer checked the console. Sir, we are not alone in the system anymore. The admiral frowned. We were never alone, he said. We arrived together. The officer shook his head. No, sir. I mean, we are enclosed. Before the admiral could respond, space outside the fleet shifted. Not visually at first. Not physically. Systematically. 20 faint signatures activated around the outer edge of the nebula. Small objects. Too small to matter. Until they did. On the moon, Admiral Hannah Pierce watched the live feed. Anchors confirmed, she said. Captain Ray stood beside her. Trap is locked, he replied. Inside the coalition fleet, alarms began to scream. Jump engines failed. Long-range communication died. Fleet coordination collapsed into noise. A British English analyst whispered, we cannot leave. A Draalan commander shouted, force the jump engines. Nothing responded. Then the second wave arrived. 47 human capital ships emerged from behind the nebula's dust clouds. Silent. Perfect formation. No panic. No disorder. No warning. Just control. A Trelling commander laughed nervously. They are outnumbered 10-1, he said. Then his smile faded. Because the human ships were not stopping. They were advancing. And behind them, something else began to move. The swarm arrived. 40,000 drones spilled into space like a living shadow. Not firing randomly. Not reacting emotionally. Thinking. Learning. Sharing. A single coordinated intelligence spread across the battlefield faster than any coalition system could react. The first coalition picket ship fired. The swarm simply split around the beam. Like water around stone. Then the drone struck. 3 seconds. That was all it took for the first ship to stop existing as a functional structure. Not destroyed in a blast. Deconstructed. Cleanly. Efficiently. Systematically erased piece by piece. Inside the fleet, panic began to rise. Not because they were losing ships, but because they could not understand how they were losing them. On the human flagship Sentinel, Captain Daniel Ray watched the formation calmly. No emotion on his face. "Target outer ring," he said. Relativistic projectiles launched. Simple metal slugs. No glow. No warning. No defense signature. They crossed space faster than thought. And when they hit, entire coalition vessels vanished from structure maps. Hulls punched clean through. Reactor cores shattered. Shield systems ignored completely. Adralan captain screamed, "What kind of weapon is this?" No one answered. Because there was no answer they understood. On one coalition flagship, systems suddenly flickered. Then reversed. Targeting computers spun out of control. Weapons turned inward. The ship's own guns rotated slowly. A trailing officer realized too late. This is not malfunction. The ship fired. The beam cut through its own formation. Then another ship fired back. Then another. The fleet began to collapse from inside itself. Confusion became panic. Panic became self-destruction. On the moon, Pierce spoke quietly. "Phase 2 is complete." Ray asked. A pause. Then, "She's inside." Deep within the chaos, Lieutenant Rachel Doyle moved through a trailing flagship corridor. No no defense. Only fear. The coalition crew had stopped trying to fight her. They were running from everything. She reached the central targeting core, placed the device, activated it, and walked out. Behind her, the flagship changed allegiance. Its guns rotated, and began firing into its own fleet. One ship turning into a trigger for disaster. Inside the nebula, the coalition formation finally broke. Ships tried to retreat. There was nowhere to go. The anchors held. Space itself refused to open. Adralan Admiral whispered, "We are trapped." Captain Ray's voice came across every remaining coalition channel. Calm. Final. No survivors. The swarm responded. The battle stopped being a battle, and became a correction. 9 hours later, the Corland Nebula was empty. Not a single coalition ship remained functional. Not a single distress signal escaped. Not a single record survived intact. Only silence returned. On a distant farming world, a civilian looked up at the sky. A message appeared across every screen. Every speaker. Every signal. Earth is not your enemy. Earth is not your equal. Earth is your warning. Then came the footage. Warlord Kelvar's final moments. A room full of a weapon never fired. A life ended without ceremony. The galaxy watched in silence, and understood something terrible. Earth had never been reacting. It had been waiting. The galaxy did not fall all at once. It fell in pieces. Slow. Quiet. Permanent. After the Corland Nebula, no coalition fleet returned home as it left. Messages stopped arriving first. Then trade routes collapsed. Then entire systems went dark without explanation. No invasion followed. No occupation. No declaration. Just absence. And that absence was more frightening than war. On coalition capital world Tessera, Speaker Allen stood alone in the council chamber. The great hall that once held 17 species now felt empty, even when full. No one argued anymore. No one laughed. No one believed in victory. Only survival. A young trailing delegate finally spoke. "Are they coming back?" Allen looked at him for a long time. Then he answered honestly, "I don't think they ever left." A silence followed that sentence, because everyone understood what he meant. Earth was not expanding. It was already everywhere it needed to be. On the moon, Admiral Hannah Pierce reviewed final reports. Coalition military structure collapsed. Major fleets destroyed or surrendered. Colonies cut off from command. Resistance none coordinated. Captain Daniel Ray stood beside her. "So it's over," he said. Pierce didn't answer immediately. She watched Earth rising slowly beyond the lunar horizon. Blue. White. Calm. Still beautiful. Still bleeding in memory. "No," she said finally. "It's paused." Ray frowned. "Paused." Pierce nodded slightly. "We ended their ability to threaten us." "That is not the same as ending them." A long silence passed. Then Ray asked the question everyone had been avoiding. What happens now? Pierce turned toward him. For the first time, her voice softened. Now we disappear again. Ray didn't understand. We won. Pierce corrected him gently. We survived. That is different. Far away, Speaker Alan made his final journey. One small unarmed ship. No escorts. No fleet. No protection. He crossed the empty space between Coalition remnants and Earth alone. He landed in what had once been southern France. Grass had grown over old scars. The world looked normal again. Too normal. Admiral Pierce waited for him on the ground. No weapons. No soldiers. Only silence. Alan stepped out slowly. His voice was quiet. I came to ask for terms. Pierce shook her head. There are no terms. Alan's eyes lowered. Then what do you want? Pierce looked past him at the open sky. Birds were flying again. Wind moved through the grass. The world was healing itself without permission. We don't want control, she said. We don't want tribute. We don't want revenge. Alan listened carefully. Pierce finished. We want distance. A long silence. Then Alan nodded. Then it is agreed. Pierce added one final condition. You will not come here. Alan answered immediately. We will not. You will not contact us. We will not. You will not send ships. We will not. A pause. Then Alan asked softly, and if others come? Pierce's answer was simple. Then they will learn what you learned. Alan closed his eyes. He understood. Not as a politician. Not as a leader. But as a survivor of something larger than history. He then returned to his ship. He never came back. Years passed. Then decades. Then centuries. The Coalition broke into smaller civilizations, each too afraid to rebuild what once existed. Earth did not expand. It did not conquer. It did not rule. It simply remained. A silent world at the edge of understanding. On a quiet hillside where Tokyo once stood, Captain Daniel Ray planted a tree. A small sapling. Alive. He stayed there long after the work was done. Not because he expected answers, but because there were none left to chase. Lieutenant Rachel Doyle stood a few steps behind him, watching the wind move through the leaves. No orders. No fleets. No war. Only life continuing. Above them, the stars remained unchanged. Distant. Silent. Uninvolved. And for the first time in a long time, that silence was not fear. It was peace.